So questions, when I'm sitting here asking these questions a day and going through some things, think of your situation. So first off, am I ready to hand over the business financially and otherwise? Most of you are going to say probably no. Financially, for sure. I'm not ready to be done yet. And otherwise, that means who do you have to hand it over to? You got kids? You have key employees? Where is that going to go 5 years from now? Where's it going to go next year? So those are all key questions that we've got to get answered and talk about. And that alone, that one question, those two questions, who does it go to? Are we ready financially? That could take 3 months to get figured out. There could be meetings with accountants. There could be meetings with your financial planner that looks at your investments and different things and say, how far are we to having a situation where they're ready to step away financially? You're not working something 20, 30 years and then go, you know what, we can barely make ends meet. That doesn't make sense. So we've got to work through that process. And what, I try, and that's not something that I do. I don't mess with people's investments. But I do work into that situation and get them with their accountant, their financial planner, that type of thing. So I think that's key. When do I want to transfer the business? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Do I want to just transfer it at death? A lot of people haven't thought about that. It's not just the financial question. It's, okay, I'm 60 years old. Well, I thought I'd be done at 60, but we're not ready at 60. Well, is it 70? Let's put a game plan together. What are we thinking? Also, what happens if tomorrow you go over and get run over by the proverbial truck? And that's what I've used all my life. So hopefully that doesn't offend anyone. But if you don't come home tomorrow, what happens to your business? And I've got an example of that. And in 30 plus years, I don't want people to panic about that. In 30 plus years, I've had that happen 3 times. I've had it happen 3 times where the people were not through their plan. I've had it happen, out of those 3, one of them was actively planning and didn't make it through a night one time. And it was devastating to the business. They made it, they worked it out. But it was a financial burden on the business for years. And so I'll probably go through that example too. But if I want to transfer and so another question is, if I want to transfer the business to one of my children, how do I treat the other children fairly? And I don't know how many times I've had that situation happen. And this is where I'm going to probably spend a little bit of time on one of my first examples. And I want everybody to understand, and this is not a bad thing, if you own your business and you've got kids that are coming up, I want you to understand, and one of the things I preach to people is fair and equitable is not fair and equitable when we're talking about a business. Sweat equity means a lot to me. Sweat equity should mean a lot to mom and dad when they put all the work in and they've got 2 or 3 kids that are in the business and they got 2 or 3 kids that aren't in the business and went away to college and have never worked really much on the business, whether it be a farm, whether it be a whatever kind of store it is, whether it won't matter what happens. I think it's important that you guys understand that I know that too. And I think it's key for people to understand that. So, and I think that, with what the kids get that are in the farm or in the business might mean it might be a considerable difference between what the kids get that aren't in the business. But I think everyone needs to be on that same page. I've been in many times where I've had meetings and I tell the clients this, when it comes time to tell the kids that, some parents, some owners do not want to have that meeting with the kids. I'm more than happy to. I've done it many a times. We try and keep it light, try and keep it business-like, and sometimes it moves on. So first example, I'm up talking to a business owner up in Corydon, Indiana. 72 years old, owned a business since he was about 28, still working 60 hours a week. His wife's 68 years old. And when I got the lead in to go in, they said, you're going to really enjoy this guy, but you're never going to get anywhere with him because we've been trying to get him to do this for 5 years. And so I went in and talked to him, and I think it just shocked him that I agreed with him on a lot of things. So we sort of moved, we kept going forward. Well, his wife was not in the first meeting. And in the first meeting, I found out that he's got 3 boys, and he has a business that's worth about $3 million. Oh, and by the way, I didn't say this either. It does not matter whether your business is worth $50,000, $5 million, or $50 million. All of these things we're going to talk about today, the family dynamics, they're all the same. They're just bigger zeros with the different problems. And so that's, I want everybody to understand that we're not talking, I have these same situations where I talk with people on a $500,000 business as I do with people that have, like I said, $50 million business. It's the same issues. So anyway, so we're back talking to this family, and he says, I got 3 boys, business is valued at about $3 million. I said, that's easy. I said, each one of your boys, when you guys pass, is basically going to inherit, this is what you want, the full $1 million each. Basically, we can work it out that way. We worked with the accountant. We can do all those things. It's fantastic. So I said, well, I tell you what, we've had a great conversation today. Let me come back, and when your wife can make the next meeting. So I'm in the meeting with the wife, and I said, I told her, I said, Mary, I said, it's fantastic that I said, with 3 boys, business, basically $3 million, that we're going to be able to pass this to your 3 boys without any problems. And then the rest of your assets can just be divided up with the 3 boys. He was lucky when we were having lunch that there were no knives or forks around, because if she could have stabbed him in the leg, she would have stabbed him in the leg. And she looked at him, she looked at me, and she said, so he hasn't told you about our other children? And I said, excuse me? And he had plenty of opportunities at our first meeting. I said, no. And the banker was laughing at this time, because the banker did not tell me about any of this. I said, so what are we talking about? She goes, we have 6 other children that aren't active in the business. Problem. Dad says, the heck with those other 6 kids. Mom says, nope. Probably the first reason why they've never wanted to deal with this. How to deal with it? How do we treat the kids equal? Do we treat the kids equal? So Mom and Dad saying, what's going to happen? So family dynamics. I told them, I said, hey, if we can provide a way for your kids, and I just thinking off the top of my head real quick, I said, if we can provide a way for your kids to inherit the business at Mom and Dad's death, and the rest of the kids equal, instead of getting $1 million, they're going to walk away with $600,000-$700,000 cash each. So I said, there's your fair and equitable difference. I said, would you guys be willing to do that? We thought about it, talked about it. We talked with their accountant. We talked to some other things, and we trying to figure out how to get those other kids a value of the business equal to what the boys had. There just wasn't any way to do it. So what we ended up doing was using life insurance to, at Mom and Dad's death, $3.6 million goes into a trust, and that trust is funded for the other 6 kids based on certain ages. They end up walking with it based on what their ages are. And then all the kids have to sign off on that says they can't go back and sue their brothers and all that. So first thing I had was at Family Dynamics, I had one of the sons that wasn't active in the business say, well, why do they get more than we get? And I said, well, part of that is sweat equity, that you guys have not put in the time to you guys all went to college. The 3 boys, none of them went to college. They've been working in a business since they could push a broom. And from what Mom and Dad told me, that was something that just didn't interest you other guys. And he agreed, and they were all fine with it once we got through. Comes time to make decisions and sign everything that we've got. And I get a call from Dad on December 26th, my client. And he said, Gary, we're going to have this signed in a couple of days. And he goes, I'm having a problem with my youngest daughter. And he goes, you told me you'd have these conversations with my kids. Now, this is the day after Christmas. Yes, I told you that. He said, can you come up here tomorrow and have a meeting with her? She's in town, and they're from California, and her husband's here. I said, fine. So have her up. So I go out and I meet Bob, and Bob tells me, he said, Gary, he said, here's what I want you to tell her. Because I have not told her this yet. He said, if she does not sign the documents and she does not agree to this, and it's ready to go tomorrow, he said, I want you to tell her she's out. And I looked at him. This is normally where I get to see people smile and go, oh my.